What up, y'all? Welcome back to the video. In this one, we're gonna be talking about the 10 reasons why dating in 2025 sucks. Why the dating scene is absolutely horrendous, at least in the United States. I just posted a video on TikTok and Instagram. On TikTok, I got like 1.2 million views. I think right now it has almost 1,500 comments. Basically, it was like a skit talking about, I'll link it down below, but basically it's like a skit where I was kind of making fun of the different stages in 2025 of all these different things. And basically that is the explanation, that is the inspiration for this video here. I want to go deeper on this topic because there's a lot of people who are interested. I was like shocked to see all the comments. I mean, 99% of the comments were women, a lot of women who are upset about the current landscape of dating and all the different stages from matching on a dating app to talking and hooking up and situationship and all this stuff. So there's a lot to get through, 10 reasons. I'm not gonna spend too much time dwelling on each of them, but let's jump right into it. So the first reason I believe is there is a serious mismatch of priorities in today's day, right? So a lot of times women, overgeneralization, but a lot of women are preferring and prioritizing monogamy, maybe having kids, right? Because obviously women have a fertile clock, their bodies, they're trying to have kids and reproduce within a certain time frame. They're not gonna be getting pregnant at 50 years old, right? So they're on a little bit of a different timeline. And a lot of times they're looking for security, right? They want maybe a house, safety, maybe they want a partner to bring in more cash or maybe even fully support them financially. So they're kind of looking for marriage, right? Or monogamous serious relationships. Men, on the other hand, a lot of times are looking for prioritizing finances, right? And if we're kind of thinking of this, let me just back up a second. This is predominantly, we're thinking like 20s, maybe like early mid 30s is kind of like the dating age, I think, right, in today's day. So that's kind of the ages that I'm referring to here. But men are typically prioritizing finances, building financial freedom, or making more money, scaling up in their career, right? They want to have some fun in their 20s. Maybe they're partying, maybe they're dating around. They want that experience with women. Maybe they just want maybe it's monk mode. Maybe they are listening to all the male entrepreneurs online who are saying, you gotta grind right now, you gotta throw partying away, you gotta not date women because they're distractions, and you gotta build your thing and do your business and invest in all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. So that's the first point. Second point is there can often be what I would consider a sexual market value discrepancy. Okay, now this is probably gonna shock a lot of you. You probably never really even heard or thought of this before, but essentially just like the market value of a product or a good and a service in business, people have a value in the sexual or dating marketplace, okay? And typically, women are more valued, I'm just gonna call it what it is, for their beauty and their femininity, and primarily their sort of looks and beauty, at least that's on the surface. Obviously personality and things like that matter too, right? And typically for women, that sexual market value, based on studies and research and books and things that I've noticed and even my own experience, it typically peaks around the early 20s, 22, 23, 24-ish, right? For men, this is actually different because typically men are viewed as attractive for self-developing themselves, for having status, for having financial stability, for having a mature character, as I said, status, friends, experiences, things like that. And typically that takes a lot longer for men to actually get those things. And so men can sometimes peak a lot of times in their 30s, could be 32, 35, right? So just right there alone, you can see like, well, hang on, wait a second. If I'm 27 years old and I'm looking to date someone around my age, there's gonna be a little bit of a discrepancy, right? Like where I might be my most valuable in the sexual marketplace, my most attractive, my best self isn't until I'm 30 or 35. And where a woman is like her most valuable, most, I don't know, fertile if the right word, that's not really the right word, but whatever, is early 20s, like there could be a discrepancy there. So I won't go too deep on that. That's kind of all I know on that topic anyways. I'm gonna move on. Reason number 3, too many options, right? This is kind of the obvious one, but I mean, it's just insane the connectivity that we have across all different states in the US, all over the world with social media, with dating apps. I mean, there's endless swiping. There's seemingly endless options with social media. Like, it's not just you're in a small town now, or hey, I'm just in Los Angeles, or I'm just in the suburbs of Chicago, and like, this is my dating pool. These are the people I went to school with. These are the people I went to college with. Now it's like everything. It's like, whoa, like I just got a DM from a girl in New York City, and like, she's really cute. What if that could be a thing? And oh, I just got a bunch of matches that like, I think there's something seriously wrong with that. I think it's really not good for human psychology. And I think if you go way back in the day, we were meant to be in small groups and communities and tribes where like we're not used to having endless options. It's like there might have been like an attractive woman, like one or two attractive women in the tribe that were like available for men to go after. And it was just like, you weren't bogged down or confused or overstimulated with all these options. It was just, that was what you were going to get, and you were okay with that. What else did I write here? Also, a lot of competition. There's a lot of competition because there's more options. There's more competition. A woman might be competing for a man's attention because he has several different girls he's dating. But even on the other side, what might be more common, because typically women are pursued much more than men are pursued, women might have a lot, right? Like we as men might be competing with women. We might be competing with guys all over the world. If there's a really attractive, high status, like we'll just classic example, maybe she's a model or an influencer or someone like that, which I know does not represent the general population, but just bear with me here. Back in the day, that same girl, if I was in a small town in Tennessee, like maybe if I was like the jock or the popular guy or whatever, like maybe I would get with that girl. Now, in 2025, that girl is getting DM'd by the Prince of Saudi Arabia to come fly on his private jet and go to his yacht. And by this guy in New York or whatever who wants to invite her to this event, and all the guys in her city, and the guys who are friends in the social circle. So like, it's just a lot of competition, and I think there's just a lot of problems with that. Reason number 4, I think communication is at an all-time low. The bar is on the fucking floor. Communication is so bad. Like, our social skills are wrecked from social media and technology and remote working and the pandemic. It's so bad. And I think that also leads people to seriously avoid confrontation. They're avoiding difficult conversations, right? I adapted that quote that's going on. The magic you're looking for is on the other side of the difficult conversation that you're avoiding. Boom. That's powerful. Write that one down, right? And there's like ghosting culture. So I just think overall communication, having those difficult conversations, whether it's, hey, what are we? Where is this going? How do you really feel? Do you see a future with me? Or, hey, I don't want to waste your time and you probably don't want to waste mine. Like, is this going anywhere? Like, I think people are just really bad at having those conversations. And if social skills are really bad, that's not good for flirting and meeting people out in the real life. And there's all these problems with dating apps, yada, yada, yada. What am I on? Number 5? Cool. 5, there's a lot less third spaces, right? So people talk about you have your home, you have your workplace, but then there's like not as many third spaces maybe as there used to be. People are not hanging out at the roller skating rink or the bar or the restaurant in the corner that everybody goes to. Like, there's less of that. I think, again, with all the remote work, with Twitch streaming and watching on lives and all the social media, it's like way easier for people to just be satisfied staying at home and being entertained with all these things versus back in the day when we would probably imagine that dating was a lot better. People had to go outside of the home to be entertained. They wanted human-to-human, face-to-face interactions, right? I think also there's a really big alcohol-free trend. Like, people are drinking a lot less. And while I think there's positives to that, I also think there are negatives when it comes to socializing and dating. Alcohol is an amazing social lubricant. Get that liquid courage. Go talk to the girl in public. Dance floor, chemistry, kissing, vibes, hooking up. Like, a lot of that. And I think those are positive things that alcohol can bring to the situation and to the table. The other thing I wrote on here is antisocial in person, right? So people are way more antisocial in person, face to face, but weirdly they're more social online and with a phone and technology and computer in your hand, right? I can be social with thousands of people online because of technology and social media, but that might make me a very antisocial person, like in real life, right? Reason number 6, men are scared to give up their freedom, their single freedom, right? That's just a part of it. I've been afraid of it. A lot of guys are afraid of it. And I think there's kind of this fallacy, like where men are kind of we're getting into these relationships or these situationships, or we're dating or we're talking, and a lot of men aren't maybe progressing it forward because I think a lot of us are scared to give up this sort of freedom, that we're scared of commitment. Maybe we've been hurt before. Maybe women have been hurt before and they're afraid to give up commitment. But I think there's this fallacy as well that men think that they are giving up their freedom, when in reality, I think a lot of these guys out there who are single are actually not taking advantage of being single, and like they think that, oh, I need to be single, I can't be in a committed serious relationship with a label of boyfriend and girlfriend because it's cheating if I'm doing all this stuff and I'm fooling around. But a lot of the guys aren't even fooling around. Now, I know from the comment section on that viral video that a lot of women think, oh, all these guys have rosters and oh, these guys are talking to... I really don't think that's nearly as many guys as you think. I think the vast majority of guys are struggling really hard. There's like some stat that I saw the other day that there's like more men in their 20s that have admitted to not having been intimate in the last like year than there has ever been before, which is crazy. And I really do think there's like 5% of men who are getting with like 90% of the women or whatever. Those are just kind of like loose numbers. But I don't think a lot of guys are actually having rosters and you're the 6th girl that he's dating or whatever. Like there's definitely those Casanovas and those guys who are players and who are doing all that. But the majority of the guys, I think there's this paradox where they're not making it serious with you. They're afraid of giving up their freedom. But that's honestly a stupid line of thinking, because what are they even giving up? They're not even hooking up with other girls. All right, cool. Next point. Number 7, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think because dating is bad, people resonate and realize that this topic of like dating in 2025 is horrendous. That there's people going through all these like weird little stages of dating, like the talking phase, the hooking up phase, the situationship to exclusive to then boyfriend and girlfriend. And they're sitting in these different stages because they're just like not that into the other person. I think because the dating landscape is bad, it's given people desperation, and it has people in these little flings and in these little like half in, half out relationships because they're just not that head over heels. Like when people are going to get married, and if they're like soulmates, if you believe in soulmates, and like there's that fire and that passion, that love at first sight, maybe like you don't have all these weird little like situationship and this phase and then this and then we finally progress. Like it's on, it's always on, the chemistry is there, you know it, you don't have to question it, you don't have to sit there and be like, man, do I really want to take this to the next level? Like, do I really want to date her? It's like, no. If it's the right person for you, you won't have to be on the fence. If you're on the fence, the answer is no. And so again, I think there's a lot of people who are just kind of like unhappy with dating, not super thrilled with their prospects. So then it kind of leads them to be in these like half in, half out relationships. And then over time, they just kind of get used to it and they're scared of being alone. And then they end up just settling. And they kind of settle. And then that gets them into these like girlfriend, boyfriend, serious relationships where they're really not that thrilled. So they don't turn into marriage. Maybe they end up wasting each other's time for a year or two. So that's another reason. Next reason is men are afraid to approach women in public, right? Just saw a video on this on TikTok that was going pretty viral, and it's so true. A lot of men, the majority of men, even me in the past, I've only recently gotten like way better at this, but really scared to talk to women in public for whatever reason, right? Men are afraid of coming off as creepy or being labeled as creepy. There's some feminist movement that have kind of shut down and say we don't want to be approached and that's creepy and this and that. And there's videos that have gone viral of girls recording guys. There's one I can think of, this guy is like in the gym kind of asking her if like she needs help with something or whatever, and she's wrongfully accusing him of being a creep and like watching her do whatever. And there's just, I think there's a lot of guys who are afraid of being canceled or come off as creepy, or my reputation is going to be ruined. I don't want to come off too strong or whatever. And it's really sad honestly. And people are just not socializing. They're not doing it. We seriously lack confidence in our ability to talk to strangers. I've made videos about this. Like, people don't even look each other in the eye when you pass somebody. And like, obviously, if you're walking in New York City and you're passing 100 people in an hour, you're not going to say hi to everybody. But you know, there's those situations. You're in a hallway. There's just you and one other person, or you're on this walkway. No one else is there. It's like, and people would rather pull out their phones, look at it, or like look away instead of just like holding your chest up, putting your head up, and expecting to look at the other person and acknowledge their existence. Like, we don't do that anymore. It's horrible. People don't even want to small talk in elevators, right? Like, whole nother video, I can talk about how I'm doing these things and hopefully trying to lead by example, but that's not the purpose of this video. Next point, shifting expectations, right? And I think this is an interesting one because in general, women are what is referred to as hypergamous, which essentially just means they like to date up. They typically are more attracted to men who are older, who have higher status, who make more money, who are smarter. Like, women like to date up. They like to look up at guys who are, even like taller, right? That's another thing I was gonna say here. But because women's economic and education success and, whatever has like now sort of outpaced men. I think there's some stats now that women on average make more than men now or whatever. It's becoming harder for women to date up. So women are looking to be hypergamous, as is their biological nature, and are seemingly not able to do so as many. They're making as much or more than some men. And I think also men are just kind of down bad in a lot of different ways. As I said, a lot of men are not intimate, a lot of men are shy, they're not approaching women. So I think women kind of just have like less options. I think also on social media and whatever, there's like this trend going around and there's this growing, vibe on the internet of women only preferring or only wanting guys who are above 6 foot. And it's like, I get it. You like tall guys. You like guys who you look up to, or they're athletic, or they're big and they can protect you, or like whatever. But ultimately, like, there's a lot more guys who are not above 6 foot than are. So if you're the type of girl who is like, oh, he has to be above 6 foot, and you're like not happy with your dating life, like if you require them to be above 6 foot, you're just like shrinking the pool of potential prospects that you could date. And like, if dating is horrible, why would you want to squeeze down the amount? Like, that's like if I said like, oh, I'm only into girls with black hair. It's like, bro, I'm trying to get married, or I'm trying to find a girlfriend. Like, why am I just making it harder on myself by like squeezing down? It's like, it's hard enough to find love. It's hard enough to find chemistry. It's hard enough to find somebody that you really enjoy spending time with. Why am I purposefully just like making it harder on myself? I don't think that's good, right? So that's kind of the shifting expectations. Also, I think to put it back on men too, because I think men and women are both kind of equally at fault for a lot of these different things. Men have unrealistic expectations of women, right? We're seeing a lot of edited photos. We're seeing pornography. We are seeing Instagram models and perfection and makeup and this and that. And we think that's what a woman should look like, when that's really not the case. Adult videos, for example, this is a woman who has been surgically undergone to look a certain way. She's got the makeup, the lighting, and whatever else. She's incredibly fit because she needs to look this part. And it's like, boys, you got to realize, like, real women a lot of times have cellulite on their ass. Sometimes their breasts are not the same size and they're not augmented, and like there's all this stuff. So I think that's another hard thing. Last point, short and sweet, is the political divide. A lot of men and women are saying that it is a non-negotiable to view politics differently. With how divided we are politically, it has become such a point of contention. It has become such a heated debate with emotion and people just getting outraged and angry. It's like, well, it's no wonder if that's the case, that if you're dating someone and they have the other view, that's not going to cause emotion and it's not going to cause things to be stirred up, right? There's no moderates anymore. There's no middle grounds. There's hardly even liberal and conservative. It's like far right, far left. And it's just really sad. And I think, again, we're talking about like just making your pool of potential prospects. Like, if you in your mind are thinking or deciding that your romantic prospect or partner has to have the exact same political beliefs as you do, then you're just, again, you're shrinking that pool, which makes things really hard. I can give you a quick personal anecdote. My ex-girlfriend and I, like, I'm very sort of like in the middle, can see, play both sides, whatever. Maybe even leaning a little bit more towards right now. I'm in Texas now. Anyways, she was the complete opposite. She was actually like far left. And I remember like these conversations that we would have about certain beliefs and whatever, they would get really heated, and it was a point of contention. It would actually like drove us further. But it's honestly really sad that that's the thing. If you look at like a classic example, Arnold Schwarzenegger was very Republican. Back in the 80s, he was involved with politics and politicians and whatever as he was becoming a successful actor. His wife, who he married, is part of the Kennedy family. So she was totally liberal, and she ended up being a politician. But they were able to be happily married, and they were able to say, hey, like, I love you as a person. I love you as an individual. I'm not going to let, these opinions and these beliefs that we have about these certain topics come in between the most important thing in a relationship, which is the bond that we have with one another. And I think that to not value that connection over how you feel politically or what your opinion is on gun laws and abortion and immigration and these things that like ultimately you and me don't really have any say over is fucking dumb. So dumb. Anyways, those are the 10 reasons. Maybe I missed some, maybe there's some nuance there, but like this conversation really, as a single guy who's like looking for relationship and connection and chemistry and amazing women out there, like, I'm super interested in this conversation and this topic. So if you are too, like, let me know in the comments. Join the conversation down below. I think the more that we talk about this, the more that we can work through some of these problems and get better at communicating, not being horrible at communicating, the better off that we will all be, and it'll be a win-win situation for the betterment of society. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.